So welcome back to the channel, guys. I like clean bikes. Um, and one of the things with a clean bike is the chain. The chains are always nasty if you don't take care of it. And being a mechanic and seeing hundreds and thousands of bikes and the neglect that I see at so many different levels, but I've always taken really good care of my bikes. They're not cheap. It's something I love to do. And cycling is all about efficiency, drivetrain efficiency, your body's efficiency to process fuel and to use the fuel when you're out on a ride. Also, the amount of resistance between your rides, meaning what do I have to do before my next ride or just before my next ride to make it easier to get out and ride. And I really don't like riding on a dirty bike. I'm a little bit anal about that. And sometimes people pick on me because my bike is always so clean. But I believe and I feel like it's paid me back in spades because I never have mechanicals. I haven't had a flat in I don't know how many years. I haven't broken a chain in I don't know how many years. The only thing that I've had a problem with, it's not a problem, I forgot to charge my Di2. And that's really the only thing. First world problems, I know. But it was a problem, and now I just use the app and I make sure I check my battery stay charged. Anyway, this video is not about that. It's about your chain. And years ago, people started waxing their chains, and they had this big process. You had a crock pot and all these different wax stuff that you got, and it was very DIY. And I always liked clean chains when I was racing. I always had two, and I would use kind of a wax lube, that the drip-on kind of dry wax. I had two chains, and I just kind of rotated through. And I tried to keep everything as clean as possible. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass. Um, and it didn't last that long. You really had to stay on top of the the process. So I just stayed with wet lube for a long time. I used Triflow, never had issues. I clean my chain. I don't use a degreaser, but I wipe my chain down almost after every other ride or so, and I make sure there's lube on there. But chain would be black. You'd get your cassette would end up black. Everything, the lube would go everywhere. Your chainstay would be black from the lube spraying off. There was a possibility it could get on your rotors. And it was just a mess, even though I liked keeping my bike clean. So I did research after research with waxing, and I finally decided to take the plunge and get a wax kit. So the kit I chose was Cyclowax, full kit, and it actually came with a wax chain to start, which I thought was really cool. So you don't have to strip your chain and make sure your chain is completely clean and all that stuff. It comes with a wax chain to start. So you clean your drivetrain, you take it off, you take your cassette off, you really clean it really well, clean your derailleur and your pulleys and everything. Make sure there's no grease anywhere because the grease can contaminate the wax. So I took my time with that. I didn't want to video the whole thing. Sometimes I just like to be alone with the product or whatever I'm doing to really get a good feel of what the product is. I guess I should do more like unboxing and first opinions, but I think that's not always fair because I want to kind of live with something for a bit and then give my impressions and my first impressions if it changed at all. And this was pretty painless. Like I said, I took my time. It took about an hour, and I cleaned my whole bike at that time too. So just to make sure. Um, so remove your cassette, clean in between all the gears. I did take my derailleur apart. I took the cages off. I took the pulleys out. I really, really cleaned them up really good. Took my cranks off to clean the chain rings really, really well. Derailleur, everything. Cleaned it up really nice. Um, Installed the wax chain, painless. Sized it up. It wasn't as stiff as some of the others seem to say it is, where wow, you can't ride this. You could ride it the way it was, but what I did was I had a wooden dowel and I just kind of broke the wax loose a little bit. Some guys say just ride it for 5 minutes and it'll take care of all that. But I wanted to see how stiff the chain was and everything. It wasn't that stiff, but it only took me a couple minutes. I put it on my first ride. Uh, really didn't notice a difference. I didn't notice any stiffness in the chain. Uh, I did notice I looked down and my chain was nice and clean. But other than that, my bike has always been quiet. My chain has always spun smooth and quiet. My shifts have always been smooth. So really what I was looking for was the cleanliness and the ease of just keeping your bike clean and staying on top of the chain a little bit more. So the company I used, I didn't go Silka. I went with Cyclowax because they had the whole kit, the warmer, the wax, the chain, the degreasers, everything. And I'll get a little B-roll of that in here and show you that. Again, I probably should have done an unboxing, but I felt like, you know what? Let me just do this and see without having to set the camera up, change angles, and blah, blah, blah. Like I said, sometimes I really just want to be with the product and then do a video like this. I'm doing it like this. Plus, I'm still new with giving my opinions on stuff because that's really what this is. You know, it's not holy grail what I'm saying. There's a lot of detailed videos out there on the science and blah 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 blah. I'm getting older. I don't have a lot of time to do all this stuff. And what I'm really saying is, again, it's about the efficiency. How long does it take me to go out and ride? Or how long does it take me to clean and maintain my bike? And I felt like, all right, I've gone tubeless, I'm DI2. I've really started to embrace all the new technologies as much as it was hard for me. Um, Coming from rim brakes and mechanical shifting, small gears and grinding out gears. So I've I've embraced all the technology, and I feel like the wax chain was the last piece of that. And I'm glad I did. I really like I said, I really like a nice clean chain. Cyclowax, Cyclowax makes it easy. There's an app that you download, connect it to Strava, and it tells you when to rewax your chain. The phone app doesn't seem to connect. Don't know why, but on the computer, it's right there. Every time I download a ride from Strava, boom, it goes right in there and it tells you when to wax chain. The first interval was 300K, which I hit. I'm a little bit over. So that's why I decided today to film this video, because I'm going to show you start to finish the process of rewaxing your chain according to Cyclowax. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to get the chain off and then go step by step. So first step is you got to get your chain off, and Cyclowax includes a quick link with the chain, which is nice. Uh, I forgot my quick link tool at work, so I'm just going to use the old my old technique here. It usually works. Squeeze both sides as you fumble. Whoops. There are other ways to do this. I'm just being lazy. So choose your method. Snap chains off, links off. And again, I'm going to get some B-roll in here. So chain comes off. And this is what I love. Look at this. Look at that. Yeah, there's a little black particles, but that's just the wax. Chain is completely clean. Look at it. I've never been able to do this even after I clean the bike. Clean hand, no grease. Like I said, a little bit of wax residue on there. And I just dropped my quick link somewhere. Anyway, we'll take care of that. Let me see. Let me get you into frame here, guys. So, real world here. This is my garage. It's a mess. But this is the Cyclowax kit. It comes with everything you're going to need. Chain, brush, degreaser. They call this an alcoholic cleaner, which I am assuming is to just get some of the residue of the degreaser off. I have my own degreaser. I used a little bit of this and a little bit of this when I was done to see if they work. They work great. This little brush works really good to get some of the gunk off your chain or your drivetrain or whatever you're doing. Comes with what they call a swizzle stick. This is what you put the chain on. We'll do that. The heater, protector, and inside you get your wax tablet. It comes with the performance wax, which has additives to keep everything kind of fresh and clean. That's the chain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it loaded up on what they call the swizzle stick. It feels a little dry. It doesn't feel like it's terrible. Like there's no wax on here. I don't know if the interval changes after the first time or it's going to be this interval for every waxing, but I don't mind doing this. I did a long gravel ride yesterday with some guys. So I wanted to go for a recovery ride today, and I'm going to, but I figured before I do that, because it's time, let me re-wax my chain and see how fast it is and all that good stuff. So I swizzle sticky here, I guess. Get it through all the wide links because it seems like that's what it's going to fit through. I can see why, this isn't for everybody. If you're not a good maintenance guy or you don't really care, how does that look? Does that look all right? Will that fit in there? Because that seems to be the thing. Let me finish loading that up. So that's on there. Will that fit? Yep. I can get it all in there. No problem. It fits in there. No problem. Again, I'll throw some, get some close-ups here once I get my camera going. So this is the wax pot. That's the wax puck in there. So the instructions say, put the chain in on top of the wax, fit it in the pot. I think the pot could have been maybe a tiny bit bigger, or I just didn't get my chain done the right way. So it's in there, no problem. And then on the side is and then you just turn it on. And they say 10 minutes. So we'll check back in 10 minutes. So I just stuck the chain in the pot with the wax. Turn it on. It's going to melt. They say wait about 10 minutes, swizzle it around to get some of the dirt off, and then hang it up for another 10 minutes. So let's check back in another 10 minutes. So this is the wax pot. That's the wax puck in there. So the instructions say put the chain in on top of the wax, fit it in the pot. I think the pot could have been maybe a tiny bit bigger, or I just didn't get my chain done the right way. So it's in there, no problem. And then on the side is and then you just turn it on. And they say 10 minutes. So we'll check back in 10 minutes. I just wanted to give a little B-roll or some pictures and video of this is my cassette after 300K, about 160, 170 miles or something. Still clean. Still clean. So while I'm waiting for the chain wax to melt and get the chain ready, actually, you know something? I'm gonna start a timer. Yeah, so I'm gonna start a timer. It's been in there maybe a minute, 2 minutes while I've been moving stuff around. Got the timer going. We're gonna set it over here and check back in 10 minutes. But what I thought I would do in that time for a couple minutes was talk about the bike I'm using the chain on and the wax. So my main bike is a 2025 Trek Madone Gen 8 SL7. I've been riding Trek since I started at the bike shop, 12, 13 years now. My first Trek was the first Aero Madone, not the crazy Aero, the one where the brake was underneath and everything was Aero. Really nice bike. It was really clean in the back. Kind of looked like a disc brake, but it was still a rim brake. I love that bike. That was a great, great bike. And excuse me, I was always a little bit ahead of the trend with certain things just because was never a pro, and I did some racing. I got my way up to CAF4, and after that I was doing mostly masters stuff because I was of age anyway. So back in the day when I started, my race bikes all had 23s. That was the basic tire size. I always put 25s on and then 28s on for my winter tires. I always had big chunky tires. I didn't feel like they slowed me down at all. But the 28s were pretty much for the winter. I always had a bigger size 25. That's kind of what I ran. And I always had a bigger cassette on the back. I was the guy racing. I had a 25. You know, when it was 23, you had to have a 23 or you weren't really racing. And my argument was that if I'm getting dropped on a climb, it doesn't matter what size cassette I have. I want a bigger cassette so I can at least save my legs a little bit. Anyway, so I was always a little bit ahead of the curve. My first Madone, I was running 28s because that was what I could fit in there. And I loved it. I loved it. It was an awesome bike. Smooth, responsive, great bike. Still have it. It sits on my trainer. Me and my wife both use it on the trainer. My wife uses it more than I do because I'm not a big trainer fan. Rode that for quite a few years, and then I got a Damani disc. It was my first introduction to a disc brake road bike and a different geometry than the Madone. By the time I got that, I was doing rides, some fast rides, but it was just, comfort. So the Damani came with 33s and disc brakes and a 34 in the back, which at first I was like, whoa, this is too low. But once I learned to live with it, it was amazing. The 32s are a little, I think they are where you start to feel the difference with a big tire. The bike starts to feel a little, I don't want to say lazy, but it starts to feel a little heavier. Obviously, because of the big tires, doesn't feel quite as snappy and responsive. So that was that. And then I went back to a 28 on the Damani, and that's kind of what I rode for a couple of years. And I wasn't about the Madone anymore. I was about the Damani because very versatile bike. Still, I'm looking at it. That's what I used for the gravel ride yesterday. I don't have a gravel bike, and I'll put a little B-roll into that as well. How that's set up, but I loved that bike. And then the opportunity came to get I 2 generations before this new Madone, the Aero bike, because a lot of people were asking about it. I had no experience with it, and I felt like I should know what this bike is about. So I got an SL7. I don't like the SLRs personally. For me, they're too rigid. I'm a small guy. I ride a small bike. This is a 50 or a small. And with the wheels, it's rigid. I don't want it to be bone jarring rigid. So I really like the SL with the Ultegra Di2. I had the other Madone, and I rode 28s on that. I put 28s. It had a 28 in the back. Disc brakes. I love that bike. Fast, smooth, responsive. Awesome bike. I loved it. Loved it. And then I got a Imanda as well to see the difference. Loved both bikes. 2 different bikes. The Imanda was a little more playful, just as responsive. It felt a little more, I don't want to say twitchy, but it felt really responsive underneath you. The Madone was like a straight line monster. Wanted to go straight. The faster you went, the straighter it goes. Loved that bike. Climbed well too. So when they announced this bike and they had the spy shots of it where it said Madone and Imanda on the top tube with both fonts. So I thought that was really cool, and I kind of knew it was going to be the Madone. Um, I got the opportunity to order one of these and get it a month before it was released to the public. Working in a bike shop that sells Trek. So I was like, I don't know. I really love my Madone. Um, I liked having 2 bikes, the Madone and the Imanda, to have a choice. So I was like, well, look, let's get one of these. I'll ride it. If I like it, I'll sell the Madone and the Imanda, and this will be my bike along with my Damani. I like having multiple road bikes. For I ride all through the winter, and my Damani is kind of my winter bike as well. Anyway, the opportunity to get this thing, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? I was a little hesitant when I got it out. I was like, shit, these handlebars are going to be too narrow. Comes with 38s. I'm used to a 40. I do have a little bit of a wider shoulder for a small guy. Uh, and tubeless. 2 things that I were like, nah, I didn't know if tubeless was really necessary on a road bike. I still kind of question. Um, and the narrow bars. 2 rides on this thing. Even after the first ride, I was like, wow, this is really, really nice. After a couple rides, I totally understand what they were talking about with the handlebars. It was so this bike and I lowered the handlebars a little. I don't slam the stem. I don't need to slam the stem. I needed it a little lower. So I keep the chimney just in case I want to sell this thing. If a new model comes out that's better and better, I'll sell this. You still get the full adjustability on the stem. Say what you want. Say it's a chimney. It doesn't bother me, and it keeps some of the value of the bike when it comes to resale. Anyway, that's all I did. Played with the saddle, got it in the right spot. Shorter cranks. This came with 165s. I'm used to a 170. All of that put together, narrower handlebars, shorter cranks, a 34 on the back, great gearing. This bike feels like it was custom built for me. I feel like they made this bike for me. It's hard to say. You know, that's a pretty big claim. I know another guy I ride with who got one of these this year. This is my second season on this. He said the same thing. This bike feels like it was made for me. It's, and this is going to sound like a commercial, and I'm a Trek snob, but I'm not. I've gotten to ride tons of different bikes over the years. Some that are hyped up, hype. The Pinarella, I rode one of them. I did not like it at all. Some people love it. Anyway, I'm not a Trek snob, but I will praise a company when they make a good product. Here's my spiel. This new Madone. As fast as the old Madone. As playful as an Imanda. As comfortable as the Damani. And I will stand behind that. This ISO flow thingy here that people are like, oh, it's going to break. It's too, well, guess what? The pros are racing on it. They race Paris-Roubaix. They're not breaking these. I don't know what kind of voodoo magic they put on this bike, but holy smokes, I love this thing. I absolutely love the ride of this bike. With the Aeolus Pro 51 carbon wheels, a little bit of depth, still gives it that aero speed feel. But when you get out of saddle and climb, it feels like a super light climbing bike. I didn't go for the aero bottle cages. I like these bat cages. They're cheap. They hold my water bottles, and I can use any water bottle. I know you can with the aero ones too, but I like to stay a little classic with some things. Round bottles are fine. I'm not racing. I do fast group rides. I go on longer rides. I just love this bike. Got to have your lights. Got my light mount tucked up underneath the seat, nice and clean. I don't use a seat pack. I use a wallet that I put 2 tubes in, my CO2, and that goes in my middle jersey pocket. Forget it's there. On the front, I've got my front light, my Garmin mount, and my Instax T360 mount on the front there to take some videos, which I wish I would do a little more of, but we'll get there. I can't say enough about this bike. Maybe one day I'll do a complete deep dive, and we'll see. But let me check on the chain here. Let me see what the time is. So it's been 12 minutes. I've been talking my ass off. They say kind of stick it in there, swizzle it around. I think I'm going to give it another minute or so. I just got wax all over. Stick it in. So it's been 12 minutes. I know I was probably out of frame there. Give you another little close up here and take it out, let it dry, and then see what happens there. So here's the wax chain. They say kind of swoosh it around to get the dirt off. You gotta be careful. It's a little can fly out of there. I'm going to let that sit for a minute or so, and then we'll hang it up. So it's been over 10 minutes. I pulled it out, shake it off. They say to let it hang, dry, drip dry for 10 minutes while it's going back in the bowl. Easy peasy. I'm going to let it dry off, and we'll stick it back on the bike. All right. So it's been, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe. Wax is starting to dry in there. I can feel the chain is cooled down. It's definitely got wax on it. Let's take it off and either play around with it or throw it on the bike. All right, guys. So it's been 15, 20 minutes. I let it dry a little longer than it recommends, but that doesn't. I don't think it matters. It's stiff. A little piece of wax fell off. Swizzle stick. They say you can throw it on the way it is. And one thing I realized is the black shit that's on your bike, it's the wax. It's the color. The wax has a black, grayish kind of thing in there. That's kind of what gets on the bike because it's falling off on my hands. This is what I love. You can touch it. It's clean. Your hand's not all black. It's stiff. I think I'm just gonna run it around the pole a couple times with a wooden dowel. All right, so I just kind of rubbed it over a wooden dowel, break up the wax a little bit because that's really why it gets stiff. You can see the chunks of wax coming off. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it back on. I can see the parts where I couldn't get it or a little stiff still. That doesn't matter. This is exactly how I did it first time. It feels just like it did when I came out of the box. So I'm gonna throw it on and go from there. And the thing, it's just so much cleaner, guys. I just can't. This is priceless to me. You can see the wax falls off. Make sure you get your derailleur, your chain in the right spot on the derailleur. Also, on Shimano chains, the words face out. If there's any printing on there that faces out. Oops, missed chain link. Pull it through a little bit. Grab my quick link. I'll reuse it a couple times. I know these things don't last forever, but again, I don't abuse my stuff, and everything's been good. Wax kind of jams everything up a little bit at first. Let's see if I can get that. And then I just yeah. Okay. See, this is the stuff that I want to show because everybody's going to struggle with it at least a little bit. I'm a mechanic. I do this shit every day. But you can see the quick links get a little bit. I didn't put the quick links in the wax. So I just get it connected like that. And it's locked. Looks more difficult than it really is. You can see the wax flying off it as you pedal. I just like to run through the gears. And that's it. Wax chain. I think I talked longer about this bike than it really took to do the process. If I wasn't filming this, it would have been half an hour maybe. There's no excuse now to not wax your chain. Um, the wax flies off, gets all over the place. And like I said, the black stuff that I noticed was actually the wax, chunks of the wax, maybe with a little bit of dirt embedded in there. Um, but my wheels, white decals, I did put white stickers over these because I like the white look of the wheel. Um, there's no black on there. Usually they're all splattered up with fucking lube. Pardon my language, but there you go. The spokes don't have anything. It's I've never, it's been years. Even with the drip-on stuff that I used to use, it would still get nasty. Uh, Wax your chain. Why not? A little bit of an investment at first, but if you like a clean bike, if you want your drivetrain to last a little longer, I will say I believe Silka, if you do their stuff, they have a couple of different variations of wax. With the Cyclowax, there's only two. There's a performance and a regular. And they do have a drip on as well if you get caught in the rain and you're traveling and you need to kind of reapply. They do make a drip on as well. I might grab some of that just in case. But other than that, the Silco maybe lasts a little longer. I think they're like they say about 1,000 kilometers. This is 300. I do remember watching something about the Lidl Trek team. They use these. This is the wax they use. Um, they were changing chains every day, so I can kind of understand why. But again, for a team, it doesn't matter. You take the chain off, you clean the bike, you throw a new chain on every day. You got a clean chain and a new wax chain. Totally understand it. But for everyday guys like me, um, I ride 100 miles a week maybe. um, I probably could have gone a little longer. They on the app they give you a way to change the interval if you want to increase it, if decrease depending on the conditions. It's getting cold now where I am. It's starting actually I think today's the first day of fall. um, yeah, I'm debating whether or not to do this on my Damani, which is my winter gravel bike, because I ride that in shit snow conditions as well. Definitely going to require a little more maintenance. So we'll see. But so far, yeah, I think I'm a wax chain convert when it comes to my main bike here. So wax chain, why not? So I just wanted to show my Damani, um, and how versatile it is. Even newer ones, I believe you can fit a bigger tire. So I got these are 35s. They're getting a little tight, but the rims are wider as well. They're the new wider rims from Bontrager, but they fit. I just did a 50-mile gravel ride yesterday with this thing. Um, the chain's not wax. Look, right? That's what I'm talking about, guys.